Oh, yeah, it's great to be back once again. And hey, it's Rich Bontrager, the Trigger, back once again for Behind the Stage with the National Speakers Association. This is our third installment, and we're already picking up traction. We're getting more excited every time. And we have a great lineup of guests coming in the future. And today we're in for a really, really great show. And I know this weekend, in fact, the NSA is going to be in action. There is going to be a summit coming up this weekend. And the CSP and CPAE summits going on. And by the way, it's sold out. There's no room for anybody. So that's awesome. And thank you for coming along today and being along for the journey. We have a great show coming up today. In fact, we're going to be talking all about the Winter Workshop of Thrive. That's our main focus today. We're going to go do a deep dive into it. And we're going to talk to the guy that knows what's going on. He's planning it. He's running it. Special guest star today is Mark Levy, the chair of the Thrive Winter Workshop. Mark is a differentiator expert. Say that 3 times fast, by the way. He's a differentiator for corporation brands and thought leaders. He helps them come up with what he calls the big, sexy idea. Now, I love that concept right there. It's a signature idea, he says. It's the idea that are going to be known throughout the entire world. The idea is Mark and his clients have created, they're talked about worldwide now. This whole idea of the big, sexy idea is known worldwide. But he's here to help us and talk more about the Thrive event. Mark Levy, welcome to Behind the Stage.
Thank you so much, Rich, and thanks everyone. I appreciate it.
I do have to ask you, this big sexy idea, who came up with that brand name? That's a great brand name. I love branding concepts.
Me, man, that's my
entire.
What do you mean? Here's my business card. I just want to. There's my logo, and then this past weekend, Joe Crusillo, who many of you know, he's an NSA member. He painted a picture of my. Yeah, I came up with that like 12 years ago or so, or 15 years ago.
Well, I think it's fabulous. And the fact that it's caught on and really amplified you around the world, that's something that people should take note of. It's speaking and marketing and branding, it's all come together, and you are a genius at it. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So we're here to talk about the Winter Workshop. People are really getting amped up about it. We have a great lineup. We are going to share some links in this for those that are following along, and grab it from the chat, and always contact the team as well. But there's only 17 days remaining if you want to register for the Thrive 2023 early bird rate. You get $100 off. And we're going to San Antonio this year, right, Mark?
Yeah, it's March 3rd to March 5th, 2023 in San Antonio. And it is, I'll put it this way. So I did not tell people I was the chairman of the thing until it started to come together. And when it started to come together, I had one of my clients say this to me today. You never told me. Some of my clients are speakers. They said, you didn't tell me about this. But once I started to see the quality of the people that we were getting and the importance of what they were going to talk about, I then told all my clients, you better be there. because I was so confident in what the show's going to be.
Well, we were talking the other day in preparation for this, and you said you did really keep it on the DL a little bit because you wanted to see what everyone else was talking about. You want to really watch and learn from last year's experience before you announce, hi, I'm the guy, right?
Right, exactly. Like if it wasn't going to go well, then maybe I'd say, oh, no, I don't have much to do with it. So last year's winter conference, last year's Thrive, to my understanding, was the highest rated conference in the history of the NSA, or at least since they've been keeping records for like the past 10 years of. And so one of the reasons, and Shep Hyken I was assistant chair, Shep was the chair. One of the reasons why it was so extraordinary is that we just focused in on giving people important information without a lot of fluff. And I know that sounds good, like, okay, I get that. No, we talk to people ahead of time. What's your talk going to be about? So, okay, you got to cut that. That's something that people can't use. This year, the edict was in bringing people on. We need information that's going to help speakers in particular build their businesses. And it predominantly needs to be information that they haven't heard yet. What do you have about your topic in building a business that people haven't heard yet? And that's
And I think it's great because it's tools for the toolkit. It's really tools that they can learn and grab and get some fresh meat. I think it's a great target way that you kind of teed it up for everybody.
Yeah, it's all about like what is happening on Instagram, what's happening on Facebook, what's happening on Web 3.0, what's happening when like when you're trying to sell someone on the phone. How do you find the right everything? We said, what are all the places that speakers, where do they need to excel today? And then we found people and we plugged them into those spots. Like, you have 1.5 million people on your Instagram. Tell us about it. You have this on, tell us about it. Facebook. In other words, it's that kind of thing.
Take their genius and share their genius to help other people. It's going to be great. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, March 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And by the way, just so you're aware a little bit, the general sessions will start at 4 p.m. on Friday. On the 3rd, doors are going to open up around 3:30. So be ready to go on Friday. And then there's going to be a welcome reception Friday night at 7 o'clock. So Friday night, we go right to mixed meet, greet. Can you kind of tease up a little bit some of the fun, some of the atmosphere? Is this like a dress to the tees or dress down in shorts, or how are we going to do this?
What I know all about are the speakers, right? It's the speakers and what they're about. So the extra fun, I could make up an answer right now. I don't really know what the meet and greet's going to be like, but here's the thing. I will say an answer, and I'm not even making this up.
Okay.
Is that a bunch of these speakers who are experts in their field, I said, and you're going to be available to hang out, right? In other words, people can come up to you and talk to you about your stuff, right? And they said, absolutely. I remember speaking, for instance, like Tamsin Webster. She's going to be there and she's going to be talking about how to title your speech, how to write a compelling description that gets people to really understand what your talk's about and gets the economic buyer to want to buy it. And so, I said to her, oh, can people come up to you? And so she said, of course, I'm going to be there. And to other people or other speakers, that was almost a prerequisite. Like, are you going to hang out and talk to people?
Well, we all know the hangout time, the network time is always gold. And we're going to get to some of the lineup in a moment. We're going to talk about some of the amazing speakers that Mark has helped line up. But there is going to be that reception on Friday night. They're going to have a mixer on Saturday night for those of you that want to hang out, mix a little bit more, have a little bit of fun. And then it all winds down on Sunday by noon. It's all going to wind down. But Mark, people stick around those hallways for a long time after we're done, don't they?
Right. Oh, that's one of the things that we did this year is that we planned in extra time in between sessions so that people could have conversations about what it is that they just learned. Because this, and everyone watching knows this, that it's one thing to hear something or even to participate in it. And then it's another thing to debrief about it after. And to me, the debrief, that's why journaling is so great, because it's kind of debriefing with yourself. But the idea of having conversations with people about what you found valuable in particular, that just sears in the learning, right?
Oh, yeah, because again, there's so much information, you are going to miss something. But comparing notes, swapping stories, that's a big part of going to the workshops and learning what other people have learned. So let's get into the workshop. By the way, I'm going to drop into the chat for those streaming along with us. You can follow along on some of the featured guests. I'm curious because you put together a heck of a lineup here, an all-star lineup. I'm just curious. Do you have a personal favorite of someone that you yourself personally want to make sure you're in the room for?
Oh, that's really interesting. I mean, everyone's an all-star here. I mean, that was one of the things. So I don't want to say that I have a personal favorite, but I'll just, so here's a surprise to some people. They wouldn't know that this was happening. So last year, highest rated NSA event of all time. And one of the highest rated, if not the highest rated person at that event was Richard Bliss. So Richard Bliss talked to us about how to use LinkedIn to gain visibility. And people love that. This year, and he's the only one coming back from last year. This year, Richard Bliss, I'm announcing, again, a lot of you don't know this, he is coming back this year. And what Richard is doing is an entire new program. Richard is going to be, last year, it was how to use, see, I'm pointing as if last year was over there. Last year is over there. I'm looking at it right now. So last year, Richard talked about how to use LinkedIn for visibility as a speaker. This year, he is going to teach you how to use LinkedIn to sell. How do you close deals? How do you move the relationship forward using LinkedIn? That's what he's talking to us about.
And we all live on LinkedIn, really. I mean, it's an amazing, powerful platform, the networking, the information, the content you can share. So this is going to be great to have someone help us elevate our game right there. Right there. That's one great reason to go.
Right. Shall I give you another?
Yeah, please, please.
So Denise Hamilton, and again, they're all stars, but just when you talk about like this, what people have not heard before. This is what I think. So I did a video interview with Denise. Some of you may have seen it. So Denise Hamilton, she is going to be, now I've been doing my work for like since 2001. And so I can tell who's going to be a star and who's not going to be a star. And if you don't know Denise now, a year and a half from now, it's going to be, duh, of course, Denise Hamilton. She is going to be a superstar. And so what she is the lead book coming out from Norton Publishing, I think next winter or so. And without going into talking about that, what she's going to teach us is she created huge prominence for herself through social audio, specifically through Clubhouse and things like that. And she understands that a lot of people out there might think social audio is dead. It is not. So from social audio, and that is on Clubhouse, she had created her own rooms, but she also commented in other people's rooms. Like she did a variety of things. She became friends with Adam Grant, right? Like the superstar thought leader. She got multiple book offers from different publishers, all this kind of stuff. I think she might have had Brene Brown reading her manuscript or whatnot. And she said to me, she said, Mark, I'm sitting here in Houston. And, there's no reason why I should know these people or that these people want to help me. It's because of social audio. And she said, I'm going to teach everyone everything that I learned about social audio, because she said that we as speakers have the gift of gab, and social audio is all about using the gift of gab. So why don't you just use what it is that you already have?
She has learned to crack the code on that. She's cracked the code. She had totally cracked that code. So she's going to talk about the why, the how, and the where of social audio. She's going to break it down.
Right. And by the way, she was let me point back there to last year again. Yeah, she was at the NSA, the winter conference last year. And she was so impressed with it. She just found so much value in it that she said, like, I just want to give back. Like, that was so great. I want the people this year to get that kind of stuff. She's not holding back at all.
So I've got one that I want to know more about myself, and that's Nate Woodbury.
Sure.
He's going to talk about how to generate $10,000 from every 100 YouTube viewers. He's going to tell us about YouTube and how to make money. I want to know more about this guy. Come on.
Right. Nate, here's how we brought in Nate. So I don't know that much about his program, but I had so many. So again, a lot of my my clients are consultants, they're speakers, they're things like that, they're coaches. And I had so many people who I really respected say he was super cool and what they learned from him was amazingly valuable. So it was like done, and that's how it went. So I
Well,
don't
he has
have
multiple channels. He has multiple channels, and one of them gets 1 million a month.
Right.
$1
Say that
million
again?
a month. That's just one of his channels. It gets $1 million a month. He has other channels that make a lot of money. So I think we can learn a little bit about how to make money from YouTube from this guy. Maybe.
Right. I'm going to make sure that because right now I use YouTube predominantly to watch videos of parrots saying things in English. Like, what you doing? That's my predominant use of YouTube. So I'm hoping that I pick up from Nate things that I can use.
We have our production team backstage cheering you on with your birds. They are cheering you right now for that. Tell us about Joel Block. What's the inside story on Joel Block?
So Joel, one of the in putting together this conference, one of the things that we did was we first said, let's look at the $1 million speakers group, right? Which is a subgroup in the NSA, for those of you who don't know, because these are people who make 7 figures plus, some of them, just from speaking and so forth in their business. So what is it that they have to teach us? If they're making that much money from speaking, we want to know what it is they're doing. So we actually canvassed and pulled a bunch of people from the $1 million speakers group. And one of those guys is Joel Block. And Joel, I've known Joel for years. He is amazingly generous. And so he has a background as a VC. He's done deals of tens of millions of dollars. He hosted a party for like Rihanna. He's done like all these crazy things. But also, as some of you know, when he was in his 20s, he was a professional gambler. He was a professional card counter in casinos. He won a lot of money in casinos. And even though he hasn't gambled for decades, the idea of having strategies on how to win that other people around you don't have stuck with him. So in everything that he's done, he's always looking for the strategies that aren't known by other people. And as Joel puts it, one of the things he's going to be talking, so he's going to tell us specific strategies about how to up our business, on how to find opportunities. And here's the metaphor that he used when he was talking to me about. He said, the problem with a lot of speakers is that they're looking for nickels. And he said, if you look for nickels, you will find nickels. He said, what we need to do is to get them to look for $100 bills, because it's just as easy to look for and find $100 bills as it is for nickels. But he said, it's not just looking for $100 bills. It's how do you become the person who gets to be in the places where people drop the $100 bills. So he's going to speak about every aspect about it, all these different strategies about us working together, all kinds of things. It's going to be spectacular from a $1 million speakers group guy.
Mark Levy is our guest here today on Behind the Stage. He's the chair of Thrive, the winter workshop for the NSA. We're talking about that. I did just drop into the chat. If you're streaming along with us, the registration, the hotel information, all of that is in the chat. And of course, every week you get the buzz information. You always open up your email. You get great information. Keep tracking along. Make sure you register. Make sure you join us. I am very curious, Mark, about the one we were talking about backstage in the green room, Nadia. And again, I said, I'm not going to try her name. That's on you, buddy.
Yes.
But she's a scientist, entrepreneur. She's an author. Amazing woman. Tell us more about her, please.
So Dr. Nadia Jeksimbayeva. And so Nadia is great. She's done 4 TEDx's. Unless it's 3, I think it's 4. I think she's done 4 TEDx's. They are phenomenal. And what she does, what she speaks about predominantly is reinvention. And so she works and she consults with organizations at the highest level, both in America and in Europe, all over the place. Does all this kind of stuff. Has been in lots of executive, like C-level decision making. And so Nadia, what she is also doing now is she's teaching people about reinvention. So she herself practices what it is she preaches. So she was consulting to giant organizations on reinvention, and now she runs reinvention communities. Right. So it's an entire different business model. That's just one thing about her. But what it is she's going to be talking to us about now, she's very research based. For instance, she says in her research that in the old days, back there where the old days are, right, where Woolworths is. I'm looking at Woolworths back there. Back in the old days, that organizations, they could reinvent at an incredibly slow pace. They could reinvent their business models or so. It could take them 75 years because it was so gradual, the need for reinvention. You just didn't need it. Today, from her statistics, that organizations need to reinvent their business model and how they're approaching the marketplace every 3.5 years. So it went from 75 years to 3.5 years, and it's getting even quicker. It's diminishing. In other words, you need to be different very, very quickly. Otherwise, you're going to be a dinosaur. And so what Nadia is going to speak to us about is, from her research, she found, I think, three, I may be mistaken about this, but I think it's three trends that it's three things that organizations are looking for today in order to run a profitable, dynamite, giant organization. And these three things are largely different from what they used to be looking for. So it's for speakers when they're selling or speaking. How do you talk to the most important ideas or issues that organizations have on their plate now? So she's going to tell you, this is what organizations care deeply about now from research. It may be different than how you've built your business. You may be telling them about the wrong thing.
See, I put a quarter in him and he got all excited. He pronounced the name right, got all the main bullet points right. And she's going to talk about the three trends that are driving companies today. And in the world of flux that we're in, she's got her pulse on it. This is going to be another great speaker. I do also want to bring up, by the way, if you are planning your hotels and your travel, the hotel rate cutoff for the black rate is February 8th. Make sure you pay attention to that. You don't want to miss that. And also there is the early bird price cutoff. It's December 31st. That's the first early bird cutoff. Is coming up very quickly. The member rate is $1,095. The non-member rate is $1,395. So you want to jump on all this, get plugged in, book your hotel, book your reservation to join us with all these amazing speakers. Mark, we got time for maybe one or two more. Who would you like to highlight? Again, these amazing people.
Sure. Again, we dipped into the $1 Million Speakers group. We looked for people who had multiple TEDx's and 7-figure businesses. And what we also did was look for people who had incredibly successful businesses and careers, but they're not speakers. So in other words, we were looking for who is the information that's critically important to the people in the audience. We care less about whether they're, like major speakers or not, who can really help us. So one guy who I saw speak, and he was dynamite, but he's not a speaker per se. This guy, Wally Koval, Koval. So Wally and his wife, a few years ago, they were doing other jobs. They were working in catering or whatever. One of them was let go and so forth. And they just, as a lark, as a goof, they started this brand called, they found a photograph. Those of you who know the director, Wes Anderson, right? He does these very stylistic, interesting films. They often star Jeff Goldblum and people like that. So Gene Hackman and people like that. So he created this website called Accidentally Wes Anderson. And just as a lark, long story short, his Instagram account now has 1.5 million people following Accidentally Wes Anderson. He has a New York Times bestseller that has sold over 500,000 copies, all about this website that he started. He has done publicity stunts. He took over a bookstore in Greenwich Village with their permission. It wasn't like some stunt where he where they did something devoted to his brand with postcards and so forth. And the people were lined down the block. They were lined around the block. So here's a guy, when I saw him speak, what he said was so interesting. Here's a guy who didn't have any sophistication in any of these things, but he was making them all work. So I said, what he talked about was so extraordinarily interesting and so unusual. I said, you have to come speak here. And so we have him. That would be an example of it's stuff you haven't heard yet about building a brand that people are going to love.
Well, we're going to have someone talk about the lessons from neuroscience. We're going to have achieving financial freedom conversations. We're going to get into how to craft a killer keynote description. Again, we're going to be all over the map, but it's all going to be stuff, again, as I said at the very beginning, that you can apply and really impact your own business. Right, Mark?
Right. SEO stuff, how to pitch. We're going to have hot chair demo. You're going to be overwhelmed by greatness, for God's sakes.
We're even going to have a fireside chat about SEO.
Right.
Come on, who doesn't want to come to a fireside chat and talk about SEO?
You could have a fireside chat about anything and it would be good. If you said fireside chat about like Diet Pepsi, I'd say, it sounds good. Fireside chat. It sounds good.
Remember, this is coming up in the month of March 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It's packed. But this year, we've also made the intention, as you mentioned, Mark, I want to make sure I highlight, we added some flex time, some network time, some personal time. So it isn't just a fire hose. It is a relationship workshop as well. And I want to make sure that's a big component of always being a part of the NSA, right?
Oh, yeah. Again, there's a lot of extra time built in where people can sit there and have conversations. And again, the majority of the people who are going to be on stage, the experts with the 1.5 million Instagram accounts, with the, like, again, I had mentioned Denise Hamilton before, like this just came to mind. I forgot. I believe in her club, I'm not sure where she did it, but she interviewed Oprah. That's how prominent she became. Oprah, she let her interview her. So like, these are people who you're going to be able to go up to afterwards, like not in the pressure of like on stage or so, although that's great. But afterwards, like when you're hanging out, having a sandwich, you can say, oh, wow, can I ask you a question? Like, it's going to be great. It's like 1 3-day long fireside chat.
That's a perfect way to wrap that up, Mark. You just nailed it. You landed the plane perfectly right there.
Thank you.
It will be in San Antonio. It's going to be a great time. Mark, how can they get in touch with you if they have some other questions? Of course, the NSA office is always there, but do you have a direct path?
If they want to get, I'm Mark, M-A-R-K, at Levy, Levy, innovation.com. Mark at levyinnovation.com. And just ask me your question there. I'm happy to answer.
Mark Levy, thanks for having you with us here today on Behind the Stage. Again, we're coming up on the winter workshop of Thrive. I also do want to remind you before we wind down the show here today, there's only 1 day left to update your My NSA account. The deadline is tomorrow the 15th, and you need to go in and use the BuzzFeed that goes out through the email. There's a step-by-step guide how to update that. It's really important to update your My NSA account. It's going to go further into 2023 and some of the changes that are coming around. But that's why we do the show. We want you to learn what's going on, stay connected with what's going on, and be a part of the National Speakers Association. Well, for Mark Levy, I'm saying thank you for being here today. We'll be back next month once again. Have a happy holiday. Have a great time relaxing with friends and family. And if you're traveling, be safe, and we'll see you next month behind the stage.